right, Promised Neverland 177. Mother. The highlights here is that mom is dead.
Oh God, I just don't get why. Like why?
Why they killed her?
Like why was no? Like why? I mean, yeah, pretty yeah. Like why did they kill her / give her this highlight? I just don't.
And why did they drag it out for a whole chapter?
Right.
I feel like Dude was like, yo, so I hear that people are kind of mad about like the fact that like, you know, it seemed to be all happy go lucky. Well, no, it's the same thing with like the Hugo and Lucas thing, where it was just like, oh, you know, send them into that room and then they die. And it was just like, I don't know if this really needed to happen. I feel like that's how he writes his deaths off of these human characters. Like, sure, but like, did this really need to happen? Or are you just trying to make it feel like there's something here, like a anybody can die thing, when it's not really true? Like none of the kids have died. Like, oh, those two random kids, Mikey and somebody died, but it was like you've never even met those kids.
Yeah, there definitely should have been a lot more deaths. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So I feel like he just does this death quota thing where I'm like, oh, I think some people have to die. Who's like the character that I can kill off that probably means nothing to the story? And it's like, oh, got him. Next.
I just don't. I don't know. I just consider this a waste as a chapter. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I don't think, at least obviously from like our point of view, this hit emotionally at all. Like, period.
Nope.
I'm not sure. I have a couple theories as far as to why this chapter, you know, was a chapter. And one being, I'd have to look this up. You know, this is complete BS. Please don't quote me on this for our audience listening. But I think it could be a possibility that when the author chose to pretty much, you know, have all the moms be on the kid's side, turn on blah, 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 that a lot of people were pissed. And pretty much, you know, just like us, like, what the fuck? And they were like, really? So they make mom into a bad guy, she's gonna live happily ever after. And people just wanted justice. So, and like in response to that, they were like, all right, bet. So they killed off mom. That I see as a theory. I could be like, okay, you know, she pretty much sent all these kids to her death. She's got to pay for these crimes somehow. Let's just kill her off right before she's about to touch that shining light of freedom. I could be like, okay, I can kind of see that. Sure. Two, there are some real emotional mother effers out there that was actually Gucci with mom and her character entirely. Maybe they're just writing off that season 1 flow that, again, the anime was fantastic and the manga's still fantastic. And they were like, you know what, during that chapter, we put so much respect on mom. Let's give her like this one, let's give her like this big bang as far as to how she's going to like finish off this character's storyline. So it's just like, oh, look at that, like wrapping it all back up to season 1, blah, 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 trying to wrap it up again. It's like, okay, I mean, I could see that as a possibility. All that said, still pointless, unnecessary. We could end this now, yesterday, last week, month ago. So what are y'all doing? But again, I do see the two theories as a possibilities. So that's pretty much my 2 cents on it.
To me, I just didn't even care when she died, one, but the other part was just like that thing they try to do with her and Ray, where I was like, so is like Ray her actual child?
Yeah,
maybe they said it already, but
they showed it to us in the beginning of the story right before they escaped.
When he was like remembering shit. So okay, so Ray's her actual child, so they actually have like a connection, which I was like, okay, I guess I get that. The only other part that I felt was like she was probably just telling them from like my jokey side, which is like, oh well, now you have to deal with this shit, Ray, because I'm not going to that next arc with this talking with Jutsu. That was pretty much all I got. Like that's how I looked at it. When I read these chapters, I just like make up my own story. So it really held zero weight to me. And I feel like from the author's perspective, or sorry, not from the author's perspective, but from my perspective as a reader, I felt like if the author he's already taken away the fact that this is not a survival manga to me. So I just feel like just go all in with the happy-go-lucky stuff. Like you can just let everyone survive. Like I wasn't asking for everyone to die. I was just asking for the decisions to be more realistic. You know what I'm saying? Or the conflicts to be more realistic. And to me, I don't think it satisfies me that one random unnamed demon goes, "Oh, I'm not gonna let the farms go away," because I feel like that is what Lewis should have said. I feel like that's what Sonju should have still fought for. I feel like that
Mm-hmm.
still should have been a debate at the higher level, but those people just like let it melt. And then to keep the story going, like to show that maybe there's some realism, he goes, "Oh, there's this one person that doesn't just agree with it," and I just go, "So what?" Like that's not who I wanted to argue with it. This guy has no power or clout besides the fact that he just killed Isabella. That's it.
Mm.
So that's my
Yeah.
side on it.
No, I hear you. We're pretty much in agreement that this chapter didn't really hit any significant points, other than the fact
And
that.
and I'm gonna be honest, I didn't have any high expectations with this.
I mean, that's a fact.
Mhm.
That's a fact. I was really just like hoping this was gonna be the last chapter, but now that they killed her, I'm like, oh, so now you gotta add like a couple more chapters of whatever, however you guys are gonna resolve this now. But it's like,
Exactly.
can we just move past it? We're
Yeah.
over it. We're all over it.
Yep. Let's get to the human gates. All right. Let's get these kids out of here and really see what happens. Like that's
Right. But now
literally
that, but now I'm like, are they even gonna leave? Because it's like it's cool to stay there now.
Damn. Damn. I didn't even think
Which
about
I feel
that.
like is better because I'm like, if it's cool to stay there, then that means maybe we don't get an extra arc of like having to discover the human world. But my thought is like, it's probably gonna go like this. Now that they're safe, they don't need to carry these like this huge burden of kids anymore. But because Emma, Ray, and Norman are still like them, they're gonna have this thirst to know what's next or like know what's out there. So now that they've like kind of resolved this stuff, they're gonna probably go like, okay, we want to discover the human world. And then because they said that, there's probably gonna be like a finite amount of people who are also like, yeah, sure, we'll go with you, which will probably be like a Jillian, maybe some of like Norman's ex crew of people, and like Don and Gilda. Like they'll be like, all right, cool. So you're gonna go on this other adventure, like you guys aren't leaving us. And I feel like that would be what happens next, as far as like trying to get them over to that other world. But yeah, I think now that that's safe, I feel like they probably can feel comfortable going like, all right, we're gonna leave all the kids that can't actually do anything over here, and we're gonna have like another adventure in this other world.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Well, I feel like no matter what, they have to go over to the other side because of the promise that was made. Because I'm assuming that if they ended up saying, "No, we're gonna stay here," they're going back against that promise, and I don't know, they'll probably eat all of them or something, whatever the repercussions are. That's why I kind of feel like they all have to go because of what Emma did.
Yeah, I wish hopefully we can get something about the demon dude now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like maybe we get an explanation about him. That will maybe it's not gonna heal it all, but it'll at least like I don't know, give me some sense of relief if we like at least understand what his purpose is or what he's trying to do. And if he ends up being like a total good guy, then I'm just gonna go like this manga is stupid.
No, I don't.
Like, I just find that funny that like this season, maybe I should read Fire Force and see if it changes too. But it's like that season of anime just set people up for like so much failure. Like Demon Slayer, Promised Neverland, probably two of the biggest series that dropped in that point. And then it's like, bro, if y'all read the manga, going down. So I'm like, it's scared me about not Promised Neverland, Fire Force. And I haven't been caught up with Dr. Stone, but I haven't heard any major things about that. So maybe that's still decent. But
yeah, fingers crossed.
Dr. Stone ain't having anything bad happen yet.
Oh, okay, good. But yeah, I mean, y'all ready to rate it? I feel like there's nothing else to say here.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and rate that trash.
Yeah, I definitely think it's trash from my side. I don't even feel like I need to add any explanation on it. It's trash.
Yeah, trashy trash from here too.
All right, well, that's it for Promised Neverland.